When we talk about the elements of a story, we're thinking about the setting where it takes place, the characters, the plot, which would be how the action goes and all the different events and how it kind of builds up. And we're talking about the theme. What's the message? And as a great example, we have no better story than
The Three Little Pigs.
Yes, and that's a good one to talk about because we've all heard it before. And it's a nice base starting point so that when we talk about much more complex literature this year, you have something to build on and compare it to. So the first element of fiction is setting. Setting is both where and when the story takes place. So where is definitely in the country. When you look at any storybook of the Three Little Pigs, it's dealing with sticks and straw, and it's never in a city setting. It's always in the country. It's usually nice weather. They're never out in the snow or in the desert or anything like that. So that's the where part of the setting. And the when part of the setting, you could imagine, is just like long ago. It doesn't seem modern like it's happening right now. There are no cars or cell phones or anything like that. So, long ago. So setting can be when in time, when in the day, when during the year, and when as far as time period. For characters, you have your protagonist, the person you're rooting for, because pro means for. So your protagonist in the Three Little Pigs is definitely the Three Little Pigs.
Let's go build some houses, brothers.
And then you have your antagonist, the one who's working against your main characters. Ant or anti means against. So your antagonist is that one who's making life harder, or making it harder for your protagonists to achieve their goals, which in the case of the Three Little Pigs, the antagonist is the one that's making it difficult for them to live peaceably in their new homes they built.
Oh, half it all tough! Now blow your house down!
Plot is what a story is really all about. It consists of a conflict that's usually introduced early on that continues to build and build and build throughout the story until it reaches a point of climax. So in the Three Little Pigs, here's when the conflict is introduced.
Oh no, it's a wolf!
And then that conflict builds and builds and builds until it reaches a climax, which is the turning point for your main characters, your protagonists. It's usually the most exciting part. And I didn't have Eli act it out because it's, there's so many different versions of what the climax of the Three Little Pigs is. In some versions, the wolf falls in and the pigs eat him up, in soup. In other versions, I don't know, the police come and take him off to jail. Eli actually has a pretty nice version where they help the wolf when he gets in, and they take him to the fair and things like that to help put his blowing to good use, and he blows balloons up at the fair. But the climax and the resolution part, which would be like the downward slope of that plot curve, that's different for every version of the Three Little Pigs. There are many, because it's an oral tradition, a story that's been passed down for generations and generations. So in a story, the theme is like the lesson learned, the moral of the story. What are you supposed to get out of this? The message. In many of the stories that we'll read, the theme is often complex and many. You can have multiple themes for one book or for one story. But in the Three Little Pigs, it's pretty simple. Eli's going to let you know what the theme of the Three Little Pigs was.
Do things right the first time.
So one of the things we'll be looking at this year is how do those different elements of literature interact and affect each other? So for example, if the setting were different, maybe in a different time period or place, how would that have affected the way the characters acted? And maybe if this one event in the plot were different, how would that have affected the overall theme? And so just a real quick example of that, just to help you start thinking about the interaction of those things, would be, what if the setting of the Three Little Pigs were, let's say, in Alaska?
I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your igloo down. Brrr.
And what if instead of being set long ago, it were set in present day time.
You ruined my image. I'm calling my lawyer. I hope you had a great day from Stinky Toes.